Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. We are here for the Week 3 review for the XFL. Boy, oh boy, we've had an exciting week. Maybe. I'm going to put the standings up here. As you can see, we have a new leader in the XFL East Conference, and it is the St. Louis Battlehawks. And the Defenders fall to second, much to my disappointment, because I'm a Defenders fan, but more on that later. The Roughnecks still have a lead in the West, but not commanding over the Dallas Renegades, who are right behind them. It's Week 3, still a lot of season left, 7 weeks as a matter of fact, so we're going to talk about Week 3 and the performance of all the teams. Alright, so we're going to jump right into it. The Roughnecks versus the Vipers. I thought it's interesting. This game. It's very tough for me. Because, Tampa Bay Vipers are in my division, but I'm sitting there just thinking, what would be really cool is if they pull off an upset of a lifetime over the Roughnecks and just stun every single person. And the Roughnecks almost blew this game. That's what I think is great. The Vipers look like $1 million against the Roughnecks, yet I still hear people talking trash about how, the Roughnecks are the completely superior team. Well, sorry, let me backtrack. Basically, after the first week, I hear criticisms that, the XFL is a QB problem. After Week 2, I hear that, it's too predictable that the Roughnecks and Defenders are going to run away with this. And they're going to go all the way to the championship. When we're only in Week 2, we still had 8 weeks left to play, and then here we are in Week 3, and then the Roughnecks have the toughest time putting away the Vipers. This is the best a team has looked against them. The Vipers quarterbacks turned it around. Cornelius and Flowers looked great in comparison to the previous week, as they put on a clinic trying to do their best. I mean, Cornelius put on a very decent performance through 52% completion rating, which isn't great, but he threw almost 200 yards. At the same time, Flowers got 51 yards in, as well as rushing yards, 49 for Smith. And running back, Cornelius and Flowers both scrambling for touchdowns, which I think is good. Cornelius threw 1 pick. And I said this before that... And I didn't say this in the video last week, but there was a statistic brought up during the game in Week 3 that in the first 2 weeks, the Vipers have a statistic that said that they were the number 3 offense in terms of yardage at 341, but the lowest in the XFL in terms of points. So all they needed to do, in my mind, was limit the mistakes, and they'll put up points. And that's what they did. They put up points against the Roughnecks. So it turned more into a slugging battle between the quarterbacks. P.J. Walker threw 3 touchdowns, all 3 to Cam Phillips. Both of them look like a dynamic duo that I'm enjoying when I'm watching the Roughnecks. I mean, the Vipers have Tolliver, I believe is his name, at the wide receiver, who got over 100 yards as well. No discredit to them. He's done a great job for them in terms of last game. Or in Week 3, Phillips is definitely Phillips and Walker are definitely the highlights for the Roughnecks in terms of offense. Walker got 306 yards, 3 touchdowns, 67% in the completion rating. He's still, I wouldn't say the most accurate quarterback in the league, but certainly, I'd argue, from what I've seen, the most mobile, and certainly has a good team around him in the offense. The defense slacking on both sides in terms of allowing stuff to happen, but for the most part, the offense on both sides were eliminated as many mistakes as possible, and it really was close between them all, which I really enjoyed. All in all, I think it was a great game. Both teams looked good, and for the Vipers, I think that they showed here that they are not going to lay down for a team. Even if people are touting the Roughnecks as the best team in the league, I think that the Vipers channeled their underdog power here and really showed that they're a force to be reckoned with, and you shouldn't underestimate them simply because they have the worst record in the league. I think that the Vipers can turn it around, and personally, because I want to see the league thrive, even though they're in my division, I hope that they pull out a win. I was really hoping they could do it against the Roughnecks to get a huge upset victory that's memorable, but they didn't here. But they had a great showing, and it was an awesome game, back and forth the whole way, and very enjoyable. So this brings me over to game number 2 in the week, the Dallas Renegades against the Dragons. This was a tough one, mainly for me to talk about because I missed a good chunk of it. I tried to record it, catch up as best as I could. I missed some things and didn't find the time to watch every play that happened, even though I wish I could. But from what I saw, both quarterbacks still struggling a bit. Silver's once again just decent, not great, not show-stealing. Landry Jones still gives me this impression that he's still coming back from injury, still trying to get comfortable on the field. I think the brace is hindering him a bit. It reminds me a bit of RG3 for the Redskins after he got hurt. He's trying to come back, although he was, I think, too early. But Jones definitely is trying to catch back up and get comfortable. And I think if he does that, then he should be fine. But 2 weeks in a row where he throws over 250 yards. He threw over 300 last week and then 274 here with a completion rating of 73, which is great. Artis Payne, the running back, continues to be notorious, wreaking havoc, number 34, at 80 yards rushing, with an average of over 6 yards per carry. That's insane. I think he did a great job. Overall, I think Jones had a solid performance. Once again, these teams, they could have gotten more points if Jones didn't throw those 2 interceptions. But Silver's struggling as well. 1 interception, completion rating of 62, only 2 touchdown passes. The running backs pretty well spread out in terms of stats, 37 and 33 yards gained. The wide receiver that stands out is Prohl. Once again, I'm actually enjoying Prohl. So I've learned Silvers and Prohl. Prohl from week 1 against the Defenders, he continues to be probably their best wide receiver in terms of stats so far. 81 yards, 1 touchdown. He looks good for the Defenders. The Dragons. Whew, excuse me. But all in all, not as exciting as the first game, but still pretty enjoyable. I thought the game was good. I think there were missed opportunities. And the argument that there's a quarterback problem, I think that's a not really great argument to make in this case because the teams are trying to still get acquitted with each other. And when I looked at the stats and when I looked at the games, it felt like teams are feeling more comfortable as the weeks go by. I think the quarterbacks overall across the board are improving where they need to. Maybe some slower than others. Some are getting static. They're not moving. In terms of Silvers, where it feels like he's hit a brick wall in terms of performance. But he could break through. He could certainly do that, like the Vipers did in a big way. They just neutralized their turnovers, which was huge. Nonetheless, I thought it was a fun game. Great Saturday for both games. I wish it was a little closer, just because I really want this league to thrive. I really want it to succeed. I want it to stay competitive. So hopefully the Dragons and the Vipers can continue to impress people and keep the attendance up, especially the Dragons, considering that they had the biggest showing in week 1. I don't know what the attendance is yet. I'm going to try to find the statistics while I'm doing this recording. But, I think the Dragons and the Vipers, certainly the Vipers had a great showing. Renegades, of course, the heavy favorite to win the championship at the start of the season, has started to gain momentum. All right, so that takes us to Sunday, and I think Sunday might be the roughest day so far in terms of performance or a competitive day for football for the XFL. I think this might be their worst day so far in terms of competitiveness. In the closeness of scores, I'm not saying that I'm not trying to imply that none of the teams or the teams didn't play with desire or to the best of their ability. I think everybody tried all around, but all in all, it was the scores were so far apart. That's what I'm saying, that it didn't feel competitive score-wise. But certainly in game number 1 on Sunday, St. Louis Battlehawks against the Guardians, to me, they might not have been close score-wise, but holy cow. The on-field heat between the two teams was nuclear from what it felt like. In comparison to all the other games that were going on, just the fights between the two teams, just the grabbing. St. Louis Battlehawks guy at one point, number 25, dragged one of the Guardians, and that resulted in pushing and shoving, some beef being dealt out. At one point, a Guardian and a Battlehawk locked up after an interception, and they both went from McGloin, and both of them went down, yanking each other. Like, it just got ridiculously entertaining. Just to wait for an explosion between the two teams, bench clearing. It certainly felt like it was going to get to that at certain points, especially with the dragging part. I thought that it was hell was about to break loose. Which helped the entertainment for me. I was just enjoying the heat between the two teams, the frustrations going on, especially for the Guardians. The game ultimately was 29-9. McGloin continues to struggle. I think he had a better outing this week than last week. 84 yards, 73 completion percentage, which I think is good. One interception. He didn't get any touchdowns, but that ultimately went to Perez, who got the touchdown. They went with him. Williams got some action, and they just tried different things at that point. The receiving was pretty well spread out in the stats. Duke with 43 yards, Stockton with 41, Pearson with 41, Powell with 35. So pretty well spread out. The running backs actually had a pretty solid day. Cook and Victor both at 50 yards rushing, which puts them at 100, just over with the quarterback Williams scrambling. But I'll save my... I'll do it now. If I have to have a remark for Guardians fans, it's to... Despite McGloin, depending on how you're going to call him, despite his antics last week, I think the best thing for a fan of the Guardians to do is just to try to remain supportive of the team, offer a positive support. The worst thing you can do is just start pointing fingers, especially when the team has gotten the crap kicked out of them, not once now, but twice, 2 weeks in a row by the Defenders and now the Battlehawks. They definitely need to readjust. I don't think McGloin blowing up in the media like that has done the team any favors. I don't know what's going on in the locker room, so I can't tell you if the team respects him or not. But personally, if from how I've learned over the years in soccer and in sports, respect is difficult to earn and easy to lose. And he might, this is me assuming, so don't take it as gospel, but he might have lost respect after that game from his team, which stinks. I think that he's in the position where he can be a good role model and figure for the team. And when you have those choice of words and start blaming other people, I think it's a bad look, especially when you're the quarterback of your team. It's dangerous to have that happen. And I think it shows in their level of play. I think that tensions are definitely amped up in the team, because it spills over. Maybe it was the Battlehawks who were instigating it, I don't know, but maybe the frustrations were already there with the Guardians, and then they're getting slaughtered again, so they feel like they've just got to lash out with their anger. I don't know what it is. I'm not in the locker room, but it feels like there's tension there in the team to me from watching it. He handled the interview much better this time around, but God, best thing for him is to just keep the attitude in check when he's doing the interviews, and try to be that role model that he should be for the team. I think that a lot of the other quarterbacks, despite their struggles, especially one quarterback who we're going to get to, do a good job when things aren't going their way to try to keep hope on the team, which I want to chalk up as a positive for those teams that do that. I think that McGloin needs to rally the troops if he can, or try to at least reset or try to find a way to win the respect if he doesn't have it anymore in the locker room. I think that the Guardians can turn around. They have a great defense. Still, their defense looks strong. Their offense looks like the weaker side or the weaker half. So for them, they need to get those gears turning. And if they can't, then it's going to cost them dearly. So that's something they need to work on. But they're certainly a tough fight. So that's enough for the Guardians. The Battlehawks are on a roll 2 weeks in a row where they had good showings. Personally, I forgot to add this remark because I forgot it, watching 4 games and then waiting the next day to do these reviews. I saw that I had seen the neutral zone infraction, or the neutral zone jump, the game before by the Roughnecks. Personally, I think it should have been called. Now, whether we can sit here and say that, the Battlehawks would have won, no, I'm not saying that, because that's stupid. The game's over, you can't play the what-if game. Could the game have been drastically different if the encroachment or the neutral zone infraction was called? Absolutely. It could very well be different. We don't know, because it didn't happen that way. And I already see the comments pouring in. I'll save that for later. Just about referees and costing games, because I see the comments about they're turning into the NFL. Nonetheless, sorry. I'll get to that afterwards in my closing remarks, if I can remember. Ta'amu, the quarterback for the Battlehawks, looks great. Once again, didn't have the best showing. I think he looked much better the week before against the Roughnecks. 67%, 119 yards. I thought it was good that they relied more on the rushing game as well. Jones, number 24, looks great. 95 yards rushing. 1 touchdown, as well as Michael getting in there with 44 yards and another touchdown under his name. Wide receivers are once again in a similar boat as the Guardians this week, where they're all very close in stats. 36 yards, 36, 25, 25, 21. Ta'amu definitely relied more on the rushing game this week than he did last week. But even then, I think the Battlehawks do well with prioritizing the rushing game. They do very well with it. They've got good running backs for it, which is good on Ta'amu. His passer, I think he's probably one of the best in terms of passing percentages in the league. I don't know that for sure, mainly because I don't know the overall statistics. They don't put enough in there, and I'm hoping that I can find somebody's statistics. Either that, or I might have to do it myself, which would be a lot of paperwork for me. Some big stops by the Battlehawks on defense ultimately ended the game for the Guardians. The Battlehawks just kept shutting them down. Guardians eventually got in with a touchdown in the fourth quarter, but ultimately it wasn't enough. Guardians just did it. The Battlehawks just kept pounding them. By the way, somebody please correct me or check me if you want, but I believe the Battlehawks just set the record for longest field goal in the XFL this season. And I'm not counting 2001, but in terms of the field goal, I think they kicked the longest field goal so far at 58 yards. Just saying. Somebody can check me if they want. I believe that's the longest from what I've seen. That was amazing, by the way. All right, on to the last game. As much as it pains me to talk about it, because the Defenders are my team, the Defenders came out losing to the Wildcats 39-9. Yikes. Frustrating times for the Defenders, and I can already see the Roughnecks fans punching the air in complete pleasure, talking about how they're officially the greatest team. The Defenders are the pretenders. They're the Redskins now. It's okay. I eat a Tide Pod every night, so it works out. Anyways, I think if I'm going to take away, I want to talk about the Wildcats first. I like how a lot of people thought that this was going to be an easy win. I never go under that impression that, oh, it's just going to be a walk in the park, because that's a stupid mentality. You're underestimating your opponent. I've learned that in sports. You don't do that. Especially when I'm on the team, I'm always very optimistic. Like, oh, don't get ahead of yourself. Even when we're in the lead, you never know. Things could come back on you. I've had it happen to me before. But I will say the Wildcats had a great showing. I think they had sprinkles of it in Week 1. They ultimately got their gears shut down by the Roughnecks in Week 1. I think they sputtered last week, and then this week they certainly exploded forward, showing what they're capable of. I think their defense capitalized on the critical errors made by the defenders. Just critical error after critical error. It just went from bad to worse for the defenders, and the Wildcats capitalized, I think, almost driving every single time down the field and scoring on those drives. They got the interceptions or the blocked punt. They capitalized on every scoring opportunity, went up 27-3, I think, at halftime. But I think that the defenders did a good job shutting them down in the second half. Wildcats only put up 12 points. The defenders managed to put up 6. Ultimately, it wasn't to be. They got Cardale Jones out of there and put in Jackson, giving him some playing time. I will say I hate Greg Olson on commentary. Like, he just has a way of painting the picture like the defenders are down in the dumps, showing clear bias until like the final 3 minutes, and then he's like, oh, the defenders just need to do this. It's like, oh, now you want to show your support after you're basically saying they've got no chance of coming back? Like, wow, what kind of biased commentator are you? God. Just his wording needs to be severely fixed. I hate the cheerleading on commentary. I hate it. It bothers me. Unless it's for serving a purpose. But nonetheless, McBride, 2 touchdowns, 109 yards. He had a great catch in the end zone at one point for the Wildcats. Awesome job on his part. Didn't like his showboating. Yeah, whatever. That's a personal opinion. That's subjective. Johnson showing his true colors on what he's capable of. 72%. 278 yards, 3 touchdowns. Not much in the running game. Carter was the highest with 34. And the defense looked great. If I can search through these interceptions, I'm not finding anything, but they looked great. 4 picks on the defense. Well done on their part. Special teams got a blocked punt. Also, the defenders, and news for them, Cardale Jones just got over 100 yards, 4 interceptions. Brissett for the rushing game looked great for the defenders. 1 touchdown, 75 yards. Abdullah got 47. Pumphrey got 40. Their running game really pounded up the Wildcats, if I had to have a positive for them. Their catching or the receiving didn't do well at all. Cardale Jones just threw 4 picks, couldn't get anything going. They put in Jackson. He was 50% as well as Cardale. But yeah, it was a rough game for the defenders, and hail to the Roughnecks fan base who are saying that the defenders are overrated, talking smack all they want. And that's not all of them. People are jumping on the bandwagon of crapping on them. It's fine. Alright. Final remarks. I think they handled the interviews much better on the sidelines. I still think you shouldn't interview head coaches or offensive coordinators or defensive coordinators unless they're not doing anything, or between quarters. I think interviewing players during situations are fine. On the bench, everything else, I think they handled it much better this week. The referees, I saw that people are making the argument that they blew, I think, 1 or 2 games, I think, for the Vipers. Nobody's perfect. They will make some bad calls. I think they do a much better job than the NFL in terms of calling penalties. I think they try to their best to let the teams play, and their reviewing is fairly good. I think that they've made some errors, and when they have, in terms of calling things, it's critical, which sucks, which paints a bad picture, and people just jump on it. people love to jump on things in social media, which I think is hilarious. But, man, whatever. In other news, I totally forgot. The Battlehawks got the first return touchdown. That was awesome to watch. St. Louis rumbling with the noise on that return. Fantastic feeling. I forgot to mention that for them. And one final thing that I got to talk about. If I missed anything, fire away in the comments section, please. I'm trying to improve, or you have any criticisms, let me know, because I want to try to improve how I do these reviews. I'm sorry that it's so lengthy. Oh, by the way, attendance. I did find the Saturday's attendance, the Houston Roughnecks and the Vipers. The Vipers hauled in 18,000, which is fairly good for their attendance. And the Renegades and Dragons, the Dragons racked in 22,000, which is still fairly good. I wish they got more people. So over 40,000 in the first day. I couldn't find any reports on the second or Saturday and Sunday, the Sunday games, which is unfortunate, but whatever. But one final closing statement. I will say, I think Cardale Jones, because I saw people making fun of him for this at halftime during the Wildcats game. He was saying how, they're going to try to, or I can't remember the quote exactly, but he said, we got him on the ropes. We're gonna come back from this, and people were ripping him up, saying, ha ha, like, what a lie that is. Like, you thought you could actually come back. And I think people are either trying to be sarcastic or they're not actually understanding what Cardale's doing. I think that some of these quarterbacks, Jones from the Renegades, I think Ta'amu, and certainly Cardale, like all three of them, from what I've seen from those three, they do feel like they're good leaders in that sense. Cardale definitely has come across over these past couple weeks as the guy to try to rally his team and try to keep a positive and upbeat vibe. And I think that this certainly shows when you're getting the crap kicked out of you. He doesn't go and just blames people. He's trying to pump his team up. He's trying to pump himself up. Like, yeah, I can turn this around. Like, I can change. I can do this. Like, nothing went right. It's going to change next half. And then it didn't. But honestly, I think he shows much better leadership in his locker room by trying to be optimistic and positive for his team when nothing's going his way and when he's making the critical errors. I think he handled it very well. I think he can be a good, positive leader for the defenders, and even though they got the crap kicked out of him, he makes me hopeful that they can turn it around, and he doesn't make it seem like it's hopeless for the next week, which I think is good leadership, and on his part, I think it's a good showing. I think any team needs that when they're getting blown out. I think you need a guy who's got that optimism, who's got that positive vibe about him, that's really trying to rally his troops. I think Cardale does a good job with that. Next week, though, the Wildcats will take on the Guardians. The Dragons will take on the Battlehawks. The Roughnecks will take on the Renegades, from what I'm seeing. And then the Defenders will take on the Vipers. If I missed anything and you guys want to talk about it, feel free to hit the comments below. Of course, give me some constructive feedback, like how I can improve these review videos for all of you guys. Thank you to every person that is trying to help and show support for this series, because the 100+ views that I got last week only make me want to keep doing this for you guys every week, and it feels great. And it helps me power through spending several hours of trying to find all these images, trying to clip it all together, recording the audio, etc., etc. But I thank you all for the support. Hope you guys keep showing it, because it's much appreciated on my part, even though I'm not earning any revenue from this. It certainly helps me mentally just keep powering through it and keep wanting to do it. Sorry that it's the longest one so far. I just had a lot of things I wanted to get off my chest. Hope you all enjoyed the video. Leave a like and subscribe to the channel, of course, if you choose. But most importantly, and as always, suit up, Mad Army. See you all